If someone has had 2 doses of your vaccine, do you consider them fully protected against any variant that we're currently aware of?
For what we know so far, we haven't seen any indication that the current vaccinated people with the 2 doses, according to the regular scheme, are not protected compared to the South African or the Brazilian or the UK variant. Now, we have confirmations that they are protected for the UK variants, and we have data that are suggesting that they are protected against the South African and the Brazilian virus. But as you said, we are going to run, it's imminent, the beginning of a series of studies that will check against all these new strains if the current vaccination is effective, if a third dose by boosting the current vaccination will provide the efficacy, and if a new version of the vaccine is the solution. And we will know when we have this data. But so far, we believe that against those 3, we have enough coverage.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a shame for folks to have waited months and months to get their vaccine only to find that it's obsolete. How much time do you think you have? How much time is this virus going to give you to get ahead of any potential variants?
I think ideally we should be able to have annual revaccinations, either with the standard vaccine, and that annual revaccination with 1 single dose will create enough immune responses so to overcome the resistance of all variants, or this annual revaccination will be, if needed, with a variation of the vaccine, as we do with flu. I think that will be the ideal.
Right now, it's a 2-shot vaccine. You, as you said, you want to start looking at a potential 3rd shot. What's propelling you in that direction? Do you think it'll be more effective, last longer?
We are discussing with a lot of experts, and of course we have a lot of experts in our company. And we believe that the 3rd dose at 6 months of the first, which is what we are going to try right now, will raise the antibody response to 10 to 20-folds what it is right now. That will be significant response to likely overcome all this resistance of what we know so far. Also, I want to emphasize, Lester, that this is a 2-dose vaccine for the initial initiation of the schedule. It's supposed to be an annual single-dose revaccination following that.
So walk me through that again. So right now, we know of 2 doses. The 3rd would be the same vaccine or a modified one? What would it be?
We will try both. We will try the same vaccine, and we will try a modified one. And right now, we believe likely a 3rd one will provide enough resistance for all of these variants.
Well, let me back up a second. With the current 2 shots, have you determined how long the protection lasts now?
We have only data for 6 months so far, and the protection looks very good at this stage.
With the current 2-dose?
With the current 2-dose.
If you add a 3rd dose, how long would the protection then be?
Again, I think it's something that needs to be studied. I don't think we can calculate right now.
Yeah, six months doesn't sound like a lot when you consider people may wait 6 months for these shots. Is that based on data? Do you have a hunch that it might be substantially longer?
It is, no. The 6 months will be 1 dose at 6 months just to create enough immune responses. It's not the idea that every 6 months we will have to get vaccinated, although this is something that the studies will prove eventually. But we believe that we have seen data, not we believe, that the variants, they are just reducing the current immune responses. So the higher the initial immune response, the higher the remaining immune response will be after the decrease. So with that premise and knowing that with a 3rd dose, we can increase 10 to 20 folds the current immune responses, is very, very likely that we will see that 2 or 3 folds drop from those new immune responses will do nothing to reduce protection against those variants.
In addition to looking at a third dose, you're also looking at ways that you can quickly adapt your vaccine to future variants. How long from the time you discover a new variant could you tweak your current vaccine to make it effective?
Lester, our goal it is to be able to do it in less than 100 days.
Less than 100 days. Therefore, would everyone have to go back, get back in line for a modified vaccine?
I think and I hope that the best possible scenario right now would look that we will need to have annual revaccinations, either with the same, just to increase the immune responses levels, or with a new variant. I don't think that we will have to go to 6 months annual, every 6 months vaccinations.
Would you have to go through the full FDA review if you decided to add something or change something to make it adapt to a new variant? Would you have to start from scratch?
FDA and other advanced regulatory agencies like the European or the Japanese or the Canadian, etc., they have already an established regulatory pathway for flu vaccines. As you know, in flu, we have to change slightly the vaccine every year to adapt it to new strains. I think all regulators are looking right now, and they are in active discussions with us, to present a variation of this framework.
You know, listening to you speak, it sounds like you're counting on COVID to be with us for the long haul. Is that your belief?
I think we've discussed with a lot of experts right now, and the dominant belief among all the scientific experts, and I have heard myself, also Dr. Fauci, publicly stating that, it is that we all believe that the pandemic will end because of the vaccines. But COVID will not go away. I think likely it will be converted to an endemic situation, and what remains to be seen, it is the intensity of it. An endemic situation that will be very well controlled with vaccine solutions.
I'm sure you're aware of this Israeli study recently that found after one dose there is substantial immune response from your vaccine, and that leads many to wonder if, hey, can we just give everybody one shot and get more people protected? Has your data substantiated that as well? And what is your thought about maybe just one dose to get folks through?
Yeah, we did have data ourselves, and they indicated that the first dose provides limited immune protection. In our study of 44,000 patients of all ages, we had around 52-53% protection. So to get the 95-96 protection, you need to go all the way to the second dose. I did see some of the data from the Israeli study, which are very encouraging. I have to say that I believe the data were in much younger population, so you expect to have much higher level of protections when the population is younger. And also, what it is unknown right now, it is what happens to this protection after 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 months. Because right now we do not have any data if this 52, for example, protection that we detected in our studies is maintained post the third dose, post the third week. Because in the third week, already we are using the second dose, which brings the 52 to 95. So there are a lot of unknowns. And right now, all regulatory agencies, including us, we recommend that we need to stick to the current registered schedule of 2 doses.
So it's too much of a risk right now to try and rely on one dose.
It's very high risk, I think. No data about it.
Obviously, post-phase 3, you've continued to collect data. What have you learned about your vaccine? Is it more effective than we were originally told? Does it have weaknesses that have been exposed? What have you found out?
A lot of things, and we keep analyzing it. And I believe Israel has become the world's lab right now because they are using only our vaccine at this stage, and they have vaccinated very big part of their population. So we can study both economic and health indexes. What we've seen it is that the vaccine efficacy in real world data is getting higher as we speak, following the second vaccination. So 7 days compared to 14 days post the second vaccination, there is a difference in efficacy. and that the efficacy post the second dose is meeting or exceeding what we have observed in our clinical studies. So it's a profound demonstration of the benefits that this vaccination can bring.
And doctor, people get these vaccinations with obviously the hope that they won't die from this disease or they won't get horribly sick, but they also want a sense of freedom. And right now we're being told you got to still wear the mask because of the possibility you could still infect others. What do the data show you? Is it likely that you could still infect others even after 2 doses?
Again, it's something that needs to be confirmed. And the real world data that we are getting from Israel and other studies will help us understand this better. I think it is, I'm almost certain, but the data needs to provide that there will be a high degree of protection against transmission as well. But this remains to be seen. And also the degree, the percentage, I'm not sure is that going to be all the way to 95% as we have with the prevention from disease. In terms of prevention of infection. But there are a lot of indications right now that are telling us that there is a protection against transmission of the disease.
How far away do you think we are from knowing for certain what the risk of retransmission is?
I think with clinical studies likely we'll be able to prove that in a few months. I think with real-world data, particularly in Israel, given that they are moving very, very fast in vaccinating their entire population, likely we'll be able to see indications in 1 or 2 months.
What's considered one of the drawbacks of the Pfizer vaccine is the requirement that it be kept at these really super cold temperatures. We know you went back to the drawing board and now hold the position that that's not necessary. Will you get permission from the FDA to store it at a more normal temperature?
It's up to FDA to give us the permission. I feel optimistic that they will, based on our discussions. And right now we have applied so that we have new data that we submitted to them, that you can take it out from the ultra cold temperature and keep it into normal freezers at minus 20 degrees Celsius, for example, for 2 weeks. And then in addition, 1 week you can keep it in normal refrigeration of 2 to 8 degrees. And we continue exploring further studies and data so that we can expand that even further if possible. That will provide significant flexibility for people. And I'm optimistic that FDA will agree with us very soon.
I would think that's going to have a very big impact on getting more shots in arms, that you won't have that requirement. What stood out? What in the science suddenly told you that after all this investment in these high-tech refrigerators, you don't have to do that anymore?
First of all, let me say, I think that we have developed a system that worked in the U.S. 99.9% efficacious and reliable in terms of the ultra-cold chain. So I think ultra-cold chain did not present any barriers right now with our vaccine. However, you can always imagine that being able to keep it 2 or 4 weeks in a freezer of normal temperatures, this is a great flexibility. What happened is that we generated the data. We had to go very quickly with the vaccine, and we only had data in minus 70 degrees. We are progressing with our processes, and we are generating many more data. And once we generate this data, we are submitting to authorities. This is not something uncommon with drug development, although in this case it's happening very, very fast.
Let me ask you the status of the vaccine for kids. Where are you in the testing and the trials, and how soon might we see vaccinations for younger children?
Now, thank you for the question. We have already licensed in the kids 16 and above. We are already doing trials for kids between 12 years old all the way to 16. And I hope that we will be able to have data in a couple of months about this population, and we will submit them to FDA so we can get clearance. We are also planning to initiate pediatric studies from younger ages, from 5 all the way to 11. And I believe that we should have data about this population by the end of the year.
Any idea, well, obviously it would have to get regulatory approval, but any idea how long before you could actually begin administering vaccines to that group?
I think as soon as we get up regulatory approvals, I believe that if the data support, the FDA will give pretty soon the approval, and the other authorities between 12 and 16. And again, if the data support, when we have data from 5 years old all the way to 11, again, they will move very fast to give the approval. And once they give approval, we will be ready to vaccinate.
Are you optimistic?
I think so.
All right. What can you tell us about the vaccines and pregnant women? Anything you've learned and where you are on that?
As you know, it's right now, as I said, we started studies with pregnant women, and we will wait to see the end results. From real-world data that we see right now, there are several of pregnant women that are choosing to get vaccinated together with, of course, the consent of their physician, and we have not seen any issues right now.
What have you seen in terms of reactions, negative reactions, serious side effects from the vaccine in real-world experience?
We've seen some reactogenicity. We have seen some anaphylactic responses. They are limited mainly to people that they had a history of allergic reactions before, and they can, let's say, be taken care with the normal treatment of anaphylactic reactions. This is why when you get the vaccine, you need to stay 15 minutes typically within the vaccination center, so to make sure that you have physicians coverage before you leave. If there is any reaction, typically it's coming within the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Lots of stories circulating, and no doubt you have heard them, of people who have taken the second dose and have kind of a serious bout of illness for 24 hours or so. Is that something that was expected? Is something that concerns you?
It doesn't concern at all, and it was expected. We saw it in our clinical trial, and we submitted those data to FDA, and all the real-world data right now just replicating the same numbers.
All right. I want to ask you now about shipments and how much vaccine you can produce. I think you're shipping about 5 million doses a week here in the United States. You've said you can up that. How much more can you crank up your production to the United States?
I believe that in a couple of weeks we will be able to reach 11 and then immediately after 13. So within a month, I think we will be able to release 13 million doses per week. That's almost triple than what we are doing right now, which is 4.6 million doses. So I think will not be an issue in a few weeks, the availability of the vaccine.
I know you don't control all of the distribution pipeline, but you certainly see how it's working and in many cases how it's not working. What have you observed that we can be doing better to get this vaccine to people who need it?
I think that it's normal when you embark into a logistical marathon like that to vaccinate very quickly the citizens of a country. You can always will make mistakes. I believe that the Biden administration released a very comprehensive plan of how they plan to enhance the vaccination rates, really comprehensive. I asked our scientists to go through it line by line and see if they have any suggestions that I can suggest to the administration to do more, and they couldn't really. So I think they're doing a very, very good job, and I think pretty soon the whole thing will reach a very different level of efficiency. There were some issues between the states and the central control collaboration that now they are addressed. There were some issues with creating more vaccination centers that now they are addressed, mobile vaccination centers so that they can go to neighborhoods that they don't have close enough, and now they are addressed. So a lot of things are happening that I think will resolve the issue.
Have you been disappointed, though, at the pace of vaccinations?
As everyone, we would like to see things happening quicker. But I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I thought that it was going to be very difficult. And I think people are trying to do their best right now. And pretty soon, I think they will have it under control.
Doctor, if you could just address for us vaccine hesitancy, not only in the general public, but healthcare workers who are refusing or declining to be vaccinated. How would you address them?
Lester, always we had some vaccine skeptic population, but of course was a much smaller percentage than what we see now. And a big part of the problem now with COVID-19 was that, one, this was severely politicized. And it became a political statement to believe in vaccines or to believe in masks or not, based on your political affiliation, which was, of course, completely wrong. And in addition to that, you have a situation that the development happened so fast that provided fuel of doubts to those that they were prone to be skeptical. I think they are wrong. What I can tell them it is that they need to think it again. It's not a decision that will affect only their lives, because at the end of the day, that's their call. If you don't vaccinate yourself, you are becoming the weak link that will affect the whole society. And unfortunately, the ones that are more likely to pay the price are the ones that you love, because they are the ones that they're close to you and you interact with them. So I would urge to all of them, irrelevant where they work and what they do, think it wise and believe in science.
Doctor, we have just a few minutes left, so I want to circle back, if I can, to this idea of a third dose. What is your expectation? Is your expectation that this will turn into a routine 3-dose vaccine?
I think that we need to wait to see, but a likely scenario is that we will not have a 3-dose vaccine. We will have an annual revaccination, likely with 1 dose of the vaccine. And that could be an annual booster either with the same vaccine, or if there is a change in the variants, with an adapted to the new variants vaccine.
And is there a worry, though, that introducing a third vaccine will create confusion in terms of, people's place in line? In other words, will we have to really start from scratch if you change the protocol?
I think it will be a need to manage the situation. There's no doubt that if we have to either start on a 6 months revaccinations, or if we have to go to an annual revaccination, there will be. We need to have some effort to manage the confusion and give to the people instructions. But it's not something that is going to happen for the first time. It's very typical for vaccines that you have a couple of shots to initiate the immune response, and then you have annual revaccinations with multiple vaccines. It's happening with flu. Every year you need to go to get your flu vaccine. So it's going to be the same with COVID. Any year you will have to go and get your annual shot for COVID to be protected.
So you would get the 2 initial shots in this near-term period, and then annually you'd get that other shot.
This is the most likely scenario.
All right. Is it your I want to be clear on this too. Is it your expectation that you can adapt to any variants out there that may pop up?
I think that we have demonstrated such a strong efficacy with the mRNA technology that I am very optimistic that we will be able to do that. Of course, data needs to prove the expectation, but I'm optimistic that we will be able to do that.
There's also the issue of vaccine being wasted. I do want to get your thoughts on this idea of pooling vaccine. You have a little bit left in this vial, a little bit here, pooling it to be able to extend the number of people you vaccinate. Is that something that you and the folks at Pfizer support?
Yes, I don't think that it's allowed to pull from 2 different bottles. It's not because of, it's not something that has to do with the vaccine. It has to do with sterility principles that they are universally applied. But I think right now, people are able to extract the 6 doses, and according to our studies, 60% of the cases they're able to extract the 7th dose as well.
Are you worried about vaccine waste?
I think we are minimized, of course, when you have a vaccine that saves lives, and the demand is higher than what you can produce right now. It will be criminal not to worry about the waste of doses. But I think it's right now quite well controlled.
And I just wanted to ask this question one more time so we're very clear on it. Currently, with the 2-dose vaccine, how long does that extend protection going forward?
We don't know now, Lester, because we have data only for 6 months. At 6 months, the protection is robust. We need to wait and measure in 1 year to see if that remains for the full year.
Very good. Well, Dr. Bourla, we really appreciate your time. It's nice to see you again, and best of luck.
Thank you very, very much, Lester.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.